Go ahead.
So let's start, everyone. Strength is around 40. Okay. So hello, everyone. I am Anant, and I will be the coordinator of the event, iChip, and I will be coordinating this event along with Kunal. So should we start? Let's get started. Okay. So Udyam 2021 presents iChip. iChip is a Verilog HDL based event, and if you had attended the orientation session of Udyam, you must have known what iChip is about. Anyways, what we do in iChip. iChip is a HDL based event. First of all, what is HDL? HDL stands for Hardware Description Language. So, as the definition suggests, it is like a programming language which is used to describe any hardware, any digital or electronic circuit. So the HDL language or the HDL is used to convert the digital design into an HDL code, into an algorithm. So iChip is a HDL based event in which you will have to design circuits related to fascinating real life application using Verilog, which is quite similar to a programming language, very similar to C in fact. And then you will get the opportunity to convert your code and burn it onto a FPGA board. FPGA board is, by the way, field programmable gate array. So it's basically a device in which you can burn your code, so then you have this chip, this board, which will function in the way you want it to be. But before burning it, a code to FPGA board, we must first know how to write a code for any digital circuit. So this we will learn in this workshop basically. These are the 3 points. What do we do in iChip? We design complex algorithms using digital blocks. My PPT screen is visible, by the way. है ना? Anyone can confirm?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay. So what do we do in iChip? First, we design complex algorithms using digital block. Then we learn HDL for digital design and write synthesizable codes. And at last, we implement it on FPGA boards. So pretty straightforward. And why was Verilog made in the first place? So as you know, nowadays any electronic circuit has lots and lots of gates and transistor onto it. With the advent of SSI, MSI, LSI, and VLSI, which stand for small scale integrated circuit, middle scale, large scale, and very large scale integrated circuits, designers have to put thousands of gates on a single chip. So the complexity of your circuit increases with the task you are going to perform with it. So at this point, design processes start getting very complicated, and the designers felt the need to automate these processes. So the designers and the engineers felt that what if we have some language in which we can describe our circuit, our description language basically, and then we can use it for some at the prototyping stage for its functional verification, debugging, simulation, etc. So it resembles an ordinary computer programming language, as I said, such as C language. But the difference is it is specifically oriented to describing only hardware structures only, not like the programming language. It's like a programming language, but its function is only to describe the hardware structures and the logic circuits. And if we have HDL, if we have HDL code of our design, we can then functionally verify it at a very early stage at the prototype, like it's given prototyping, at the prototyping digital hardware before fabrication. So before actually wasting all our time and money into fabrication, and then we get to come to know that there was some bug or it's not performing the way we wanted, we can eliminate this issue by using HDL and just simulating it on the software, and then get the error before fabricating it. So this is why we needed Verilog. Here is an image. If you have to design any circuit, what you do step by step. First, you draw a truth table. Just what do you want. Then you minimize your logic and then implement the circuit. You draw a schematic of the circuit you want to build, and then try to get its behavioral description. What is behavioral description? It is used to describe the function of design in an algorithmic manner. So if you have a circuit in front of you, like it's given in this image, circuit implementation, uh, you try to understand what this circuit is doing, what is the function of this circuit, and you try to describe this function in an algorithmic manner. What is the algorithm of the circuit doing, so that then it can be converted to the HDL code, and then finally we can burn it to the FPGA boards. So here are the prerequisites of this event. Some basic concepts of digital design are essential, such as gates and associated combinational logic design using K-maps. So you may have noticed that the workshop of this iChip is conducted quite late as compared to other events. Today it's 17 Jan. So the only reason of conducting it late was so that you can learn and understand these concepts before attending these workshops, which was being taught in the Digisim workshop. Two workshops are held, I guess, and they would have taught you the combinational circuit theory. So this is the prerequisite of event. And the second is flip-flop and sequential circuit design. So sequential circuit theory, we will be covering the sequential part in the next workshop, which will be held probably after the Digisim workshop, in which they will teach you the sequential circuit first, and then we can learn to code the circuits, sequential circuits. And the third is knowledge of any computer language. Very basic, may also do like C programming language. So you just need to have a basic knowledge of C. It would just suffice for this event. So let's get started with some basic concepts. So till now, what have you understand about this event? I just told you that iChip is a event all about Verilog HDL, and what an HDL language do, it converts your digital circuit, your digital design into an HDL code. So then you can run it on any software and simulate it. So the need of the R is to convert the circuit into an HDL code, and how it's done, we will see. So we just define two modules, two functions basically. They are called modules. One would be design module, and the second would be simulation module. So what the design module will do, it will be describing your original circuit, whatever is the structure of the circuit, whatever is the function of circuit. We try to implement it in this module. This module is the functional unit of the Verilog language, and then there is another module, simulation module, which is just used to provide inputs to our main design module. So before writing the code of design module and simulation module, let's first in detail understand what is a module. So module declaration. The term module refers to the text enclosed by the keyword pair module and end module. So how do we define a module in Verilog language? We write the keyword module, M-O-D-U-L-E, and then end the module by the keyword end module. And whatever goes in between this keywords module and end module, the text, the body of the module, this is the main functional unit for describing your circuit. A module is the fundamental descriptive unit in the Verilog language. It is declared by the keyword module and must always be terminated by the keyword end module. So as you see, the module is the functional unit. The whole crux of digital design lies in the module. So here we have this circuit, a very simple circuit. In fact, we have these three gates, AND gate G1, and NOT gate G2, and an OR gate G3. Also, we have these three inputs, A and B going to the AND gate, and C going to the OR gate. And we will be collecting two outputs, D and E, all D and E. So we have these three inputs and two outputs. So let's just write the code of this module to describe this circuit. So the below image is actually the snap of the Verilog actual code. How do we write it? So let's see. The first line is of course this comment denoted by double slash. The module begins with the first line with the keyword module. As you can see, M-O-D-U-L-E. It's been shown in bold to signify that it's a keyword. And then we just give it a name. Like you can build an analogy with the C language. The module is quite similar to a function. So how do we declare a function in a programming language? We write function and its name and the inputs and arguments we are passing in it. So similarly, here we will be writing the keyword module, giving it a name, a simple underscore circuit in this case, and it is followed by this pair of parentheses, and then the parenthesis contains a list of ports. Ports means just the inputs and outputs of the circuit whose description we are going to write in this code. So what are the inputs and outputs? A, B, C, D, and E. So we have just written them. Then we just terminate the sentence by this semicolon and start to write the body of the module. We begin by specifying what are the inputs and what are the outputs. So again, we are writing this keyword output, which is shown in bold. And what are the circuits of this output? D and E, as you can see. So we have just written output D and E. Similarly, input A, B, and C. Yes. So and we have then declared the keyword wire and given the identifier W1 to its name. So what's this wire? As you can see in this circuit, it is basically a gate level modeling of the circuit. We will get to it in the later of this workshop. So what gate level modeling does is it just try to replicate whatever is the structure of the circuit. So what do we see in this circuit? We see three inputs. Okay, we have specified. We see two outputs. We have specified. We see three gates, which we will specify it. And what's remaining? You will see there is a connection from the output of gate G1 to the input of gate G3, which is neither an input nor an output. So this interconnection is called as wire. It's just like what a physical wire is. What's the role of a physical wire? Just connecting the part of circuit. Similarly, the same task is for the keyword wire. So the data type wire is used for an interconnection, and just give it a name. We will be giving it W1. So we have specified all the ports, output, input, and also the wire of the circuit, wire W1. Now there are three gates in this circuit. So we will be just writing means how to write them in the code. So we have written AND, which is a keyword. So this is basically the instantiation of a gate. The gate here is an AND gate, so we have used the keyword AND. We have given it a name which is optional, but you can give it just for your convenience. We have given it the name G1, and it's followed by a pair of parentheses in which again you will specify the ports of this gate, the outputs and input. So what is the output of this gate? W1. And what are the inputs? A and B. We are talking about the AND gate G1. So we will just write this list W1 comma A comma B inside this parenthesis, and yes, we have instantiated this gate. One thing, try to always mention output first and then input. Like we have written here W1 followed by A and B, not A, B, W1. In the declaration of module, it's not hard and fast, but it's always a safe practice to first mention the output and then the input, followed by the input. So this is how you instantiate a gate. So basically here I have used two words, module declaration and gate instantiation. So what is the difference between a declaration or instantiation? A declaration is basically again just build an analogy with the function. How do we define a function? We declare a function. So how do we define a function in any programming language? We just write the function, its arguments, and describe the whole function. And the other thing which we do is call a function. So when we are calling a function, it is already predefined. So here we have given it the name instantiation. So the whole module which we are writing is the declaration. We are declaring this module, and we are instantiating this gate. Means we are in the Verilog language, this gate and gate is already declared somewhere, and we do not have to write its full content. We just call the gate, and what it will do, it will do the same work which is done by a AND gate. So this was the instantiation of AND gate. Similarly, we will be instantiating the gate G2 and G3. The G2 is an inverter, a NOT gate. So we will be writing the keyword NOT followed by the gate name G2, and its ports. What is the output of the inverter? G to E. And what is the input? It is C. So just we have written in the parenthesis E, comma C. And similarly, the third gate, which you can see is the OR gate G3. Its output is D and its input is A and B. So we have given it a name G3, and then in the pair of parentheses, we have written the list of ports D followed by W1 and E, the inputs. Okay, so the module code is full done here. It's this simple. You have seen the gate, what is the structure, what are the things you are seeing, and just writing it here. Any doubts till now? You can just write in the chat box, or even you can interrupt me for any doubts. Are there any messages? I don't think so. You can ask doubt if you have any doubt. No issues. Otherwise, I will be proceeding forward further. Have you understood how you will be declaring a module? No response. Anyways, so let's move ahead. So this was the design module of this circuit. We just see the contents of the structure of the circuit and just write the code for it. These are some details about module. The first line of a text is a comment. The second line begins with the keyword module and it starts the declaration of the module. The last line completes the declaration with the keyword and module. And the keyword module is followed by a name and a list of ports, the inputs and outputs basically. In this example, the ports are the inputs and outputs. Next, the keyword input and output specify which of the ports are inputs and which are outputs. And any internal connection is declared as wires. So everything which is in bold, module, output, input, wire, and not, or, and module, these all are the keywords. You can't use them for your name of identifier, your variables like we have used D, E, A, B, C. You can't use that. These are the keywords which are pre-reserved by the language. And the elements of the list are referred to as instantiation of gate, each of which is referred to a gate instance. So as I told you. So let's move ahead. Now I have just made a small change to the previous gate. What is that? You can just see three numbers about the three gates, 30 nanosecond, 20 nanosecond, and 10 nanosecond. So what are they? They are the propagation delay of these gates. You guys know what is a propagation delay of a gate? If not, let me just brief you. The propagation delay of any gate is basically the time the gate needs for to show changes in the output corresponding to the changes in the input. What I mean is, if you have the input A and B as 0, 0. So what will be the output of AND gate? It would be 0, of course. So let's say if at 10 nanoseconds, we have toggled the input from 0 to 1. So now both the inputs A and B are changed from 0 to 1. So what will be the output? 1. But if this gate is having a propagation delay, in this example, say 30 nanoseconds, so now at that instant only 10 nanosecond, the output will not change to 1 immediately. It will take some time to reflect the changes which was made to it at the input side. So now at 10 plus 30, the propagation delay, at t equal to 40 nanoseconds, the output of the gate AND gate will change from 0 to 1. So this propagation delay is like a delay, of course. So this is what propagation delay means. So how to incorporate a propagation delay in our code? What changes we need to do? What we do is first we define this line keyword. Sorry. Yeah. So first we define this line time scale. What and it's followed by two number. You can see one nano in the just see the right image, the code of this the module of this circuit. We have written this first line time scale followed by two number 1 nanosecond slash 1 picosecond. So what do these two numbers says? The first number specifies the unit of measurement of time delays, and the second number is just the precision. So what we will be doing, we know that this AND gate G1 is having propagation delay 30 nanosecond. So we display it by writing hash 30. As you can see, before the G1, we have written hash 30. So this 30 is a constant. And what is the unit of this constant? This work is done by the time scale. We just specify the unit which we will be using. In this case, we are using nanosecond. So this hash 30 means that this gate, this AND gate G1 is having an propagation delay of 30 nanoseconds. And the second value, picosecond, 1 picosecond, which we have written at top, is simply the precision value. It's like if you have written something 30.00001, so it will just round it off according to this second value. In this case, it is 0.1 nanosecond. So this is how you are going to incorporate propagation delays in your circuit while instantiating your gates, the AND gate, the NOT gate, the OR gate. In this example, you will, along with this AND G1, W1, A, B, you will be writing, prefixing it with this hash 30 or whatever the propagation delay is, hash 10 for NOT gate, hash 20 for the OR gate. So this is the module for our circuit, the design module. And now comes the test bench. As I told you in the beginning, to design any circuit, we will be needing two modules, a design module in which we will be describing the actual circuit, which we have seen. This is the module, design module. And along with it, we would be needing a simulation module, which will be providing input to this module, design module, which is also known as test bench. So let's see test bench. In order to simulate a circuit within HDL, it is necessary to apply inputs to the circuit so that the simulator will generate an output response. An HDL description that provides the stimulus to a design is called a test bench, or also known as stimulating module. So just like in practical example, if you have a circuit ready in front of you, how do you verify that it's functioning correctly? Because the whole point of developing an HDL and writing its code was that you can functionally verify it after describing the circuit, that is it functioning correctly, is it having any bugs, do we need to debug it. This all things become clear by simulating it. So we need a simulating module. And how do we check any actual circuit? In physical life, we just supply an input to the inputs. Similarly, we will be supplying the inputs to our module, the design module, via test bench. So let's see the code of a test bench. In this image, you can see there is two codes. The right side block is the code of a pseudocode of a designing module. So just see how we have written that module circuit and in parenthesis CAB. So the C is the output of the design module, the circuit, and A and B are its inputs. Then in the body, you just define what are inputs, what are output, and then the description goes here, means the body of the module, and terminated by the end module. So the right side block is the code of a design module. Now, how we will write the simulation module, the test bench corresponding to this module, it is shown at the left side. What do? We do the similar thing. We write the keyword module by a name T_circuit. Now, what are the inputs to the circuit? A and B. So these are defined as registers, signified by the keyword reg in this language. So register simply retains the value until next value is given to it. So we want the same. We want our inputs to remain to a constant value until we supply a new value to the input. So we define the inputs as register in the simulation module, not in the design module. It's simply named input. So in the simulation module, the inputs is given the data type register and the output is given the data type wire. Now you instantiate the design module. See the next line, circuit M and in the bracket TC, TA, TB. So what is this circuit? Circuit here means the name of the design module which you have given. You have given it the name circuit, the design module. So in the simulation module, in the test bench, I'm going to say, in the test bench, you will be instantiating your design module. How we will be doing that? Same as we have instantiated the gate. it's like a function call. You will be writing circuit, give it a name, M, any name, and then you just follow it by a pair of parentheses, and in parentheses you write the ports of the circuit, actual circuit. Yeah, one thing to pay attention is just follow the same order as the order you have maintained while declaring the design module. You have written there C, A and B, means C is the output and then A and B were the inputs. So the same order should be followed while instantiating this design module in this test bench. Here you can see that names are different. In this test bench we have used the name TC for the output and T and TB for the inputs. But because these are two different modules, but you can also give them same name just to avoid any confusion, if any. You can just give the input name as A and B also in the test bench also, and just follow the same order, CAB there, CAB here. So this is a call to our design module, and then comes the main body of the test bench. You will be writing how to give a value to the input. The stimulus generators for TA and TB go here. This we will see in the next slide. Let's see that. So first, some description about test bench. Test bench is a HDL code that allows you to check the response of the circuit for different input you instantiate to your design. Like this line here, circuit M. This was the instantiation of our design. And you supply the circuits with some inputs. This we will be seeing the next slide. So in a test bench, all the inputs are initiated as registers and outputs as wire, as I told. And the register data type represent data storage elements. They retain their value until another value is placed onto them. And then comes the wire. A wire represents connection between hardware element, just as in real circuits. Wires have values continuously driven on them by the devices that they are connected to. Nothing too much. So let's see the actual code of the test bench. So this is a snap of the code of the test bench corresponding to our this circuit. This was the design module on the right side of the actual circuit. Now corresponding to it is our simulation module, the test bench. So just see the code. You just declare the module by writing keyword module, then just give it a name and just leave the parenthesis open and nothing inside it, or even you can eliminate the parenthesis, just write semicolon, because it does not want any ports. In the design module we have given we have supplied the ports, because we have supplied the ports D, E, A, B, C, because in the test bench you were calling this module, but this test bench this will not be called by any function, so it does not interact with the environment. So just leave it, just write module, the name of the module, semicolon, and finish the sentence. Now comes the inputs and outputs. As I said, just declare the outputs as wire, keyword wire, wire DE, and the inputs as register data type REG, ABC, and then you instantiate your design module, the module which we have just written and seen. Its name was and or prop delay. You can check here, and or prop delay. The same name you need to write here, and then just give it a name, any variable name, INS we are giving it here, and then the same thing, the pair of parentheses, inside that you write the ports in the same order as they were written in the design module. Now comes the main part. You have to what is the whole point of writing this test bench? You have to supply inputs to your circuit. So this is how we are going to give the value to the inputs. We do this in a block called as initial. It's a keyword initial. We write initial, and if our body is more than one line, we just write begin and end. It's like curly braces in the programming language. So just write the keyword begin with your body which contains more than one line and terminate it by end keyword. So here comes the body. We have to supply inputs to supply values to the input A, B, and C. So we write A equal to 1 inverted comma B 0 semicolon. What is this? A is your input and 1 is the size of the value which you are giving it to A, it's just a 1-bit number, so we have written 1. Under inverted comma B means it's a binary value. B stands for binary, and then it's followed by the actual value which you will be giving to A. Either it would be 0 or 1. Here we have given it 0. So A equal to 1 inverted comma B 0. Similarly, B equal to 1 inverted comma B 0 and C 1 inverted comma B 0. Means we have given the input A, B and C the values 0, all three of them. Then what we have written hash 100, and then we are giving it the value 111. So what do this thing hash 100 do? It's just like a pause. It pauses the circuit for the time as specified the value. So here after the circuit gets paused for 100 seconds, not the circuit actually. What we mean is that after 100 seconds, this value will remain 0, 0, 0, A, B, C for initial 100 seconds. And then after 100 seconds, this value will be changed to 1. Pretty clear, I guess. And then we just write end keyword signifying that the big N is closed. So like this, we have given the input, these values, and then we terminate the module by the keyword end module. So here is some description. The module t underscore and or prop delay is declared. The module and or prop delay is instantiated, and the inputs given to it are changed with time to observe the response of the circuit. So we are supplying the inputs to it, and we will check how the output changes with this. All the three inputs A, B, C were initialized to 0, and after 100 nanoseconds, all the inputs are simultaneously toggled to 1. The set of statements to be executed is called a block statement, and they're enclosed by keyword begin and end. The symbol hash is used for creating delay. So this is our code for test bench. So we have seen how to write code for design module as well as test bench for any circuit. Once we have written these two modules, we just run the simulation and check the timing diagram, how the output changes with the input. Here is the snap from the Vivado software. It's a software for simulation of HDL language. We will talk about it later. So as you can see here, A, B and C, they are at the bottom of the column. These are the inputs. You can check that they were 0 for the initial 100 second, and at 100 millisecond they all change to 1. Just check that step. It's like 0 and then change to 1. And above it are the outputs D and E. The actual outputs are of the circuit about which we are talking. So E, you can just notice this red line. What is this red line? So as I said our circuit, the outputs here are D and E. The D output is from the OR gate, and then E output is from the inverter. So these both gates, OR gate and the inverter, both have propagation delay of 10 nanosecond. So what does the propagation delay means? It means if any input is changed at t equal to 10 nanosecond, the output will change correspondingly to it after the propagation delay of 10 nanosecond. So if we are changing the input at t equal to 10 nanosecond, the output will change at t equal to 20 nanosecond. So what do you think will happen in the time interval of 0 to 10 nanosecond? What will the inverter show output in the time interval 0 to 10 nanosecond? It would be an error or red line as specified in the time diagram, because it display output according to the input which was 10 seconds earlier, which was supplied to it at 10 seconds earlier. So between 0 to 10 nanosecond, this time just goes negative. So no output is being displaced by this OR gate. The Z, as you can see in the diagram, it's written X, sorry. X means can't state. It is 0 or 1. Similarly, you can check the D, it is red for 30 nanoseconds. So how come it's red for 30 nanoseconds? Let's see in the diagram. The OR gate has the propagation delay of 20 nanosecond. So at t equal to 20 nanosecond, the output of this OR gate will be according to what was the input at t equal to 0 nanosecond, right? Just minus the propagation delay, 20 minus 20, 0. So what are the inputs to the OR gate at t equal to 0 nanosecond? The input to the OR gate is from the output of the AND gate and the output of the inverter. And this both gates themselves have propagation delay. So at t equal to 20 nanosecond, it will remain red. But what happens at t equal to 30 nanoseconds? At t equal to 30 nanoseconds, the output of the OR gate will be according to its input, which was there at t equal to 10 nanoseconds. So what was the condition at t equal to 10 nanoseconds? You have seen that now at t equal to 10 nanosecond, the NOT gate, the inverter, it will output the value 1 because C was 0 and it has propagation delay of 10 nanosecond. So at 10 nanosecond, now the inverter can stable the output as 1. So now the OR gate G3, it sees that one of this value is 1. So irrespective of the other value which is coming from the AND gate output, it knows that the output is going to be 1. So from 20 plus 10, 30 nanoseconds, it stables the output at 1. Now let's see the rest of the timing diagram. At 100 nanosecond, you can see A, B and C are changed from 0 to 1. Right, the step. Now observe E, the timing diagram of E. It's red for the initial 10 nanosecond and after 10 nanosecond it is stable to 1 because the output of the inverter to the input 0 will be 1, right? So it remains 1, but at 110 nanosecond it comes back to 0. Why? Because at 100 nanosecond the input C, it has changed from 0 to 1. So this will reflect changes at the output after 10 nanosecond, the propagation delay of the inverter. So from 110 nanosecond, the E will show value 0, and then it gets stable to 0 for the rest of the diagram. Now observe the OR gate D, the output of the OR gate D. It is red for the initial 30 nanoseconds as I explained. Then it has become 1 because one of its input has become 1 at from 30 nanosecond. Now it is 1 up to 130 nanoseconds. Why? The OR gate has the propagation delay of 20 nanosecond. So at t equal to 120, it sees what were the inputs at t equal to 100. So at t equal to 100, the input has not changed their value because the previous gates, AND gate and inverter, they themselves have some propagation delay. Now check what happens at t equal to 130. T equal to 130 means what were the outputs at t equal to 110. So at t equal to 110, the output of the inverter, basically the value E, has become 0. So since it has become 0, now the OR will be outputting 0. So it will remain 0 from 130 to 150. And at 150 it becomes from 1. Why? Because at 150 nanoseconds, the OR gate C what was the input at 130. So what was the input at 130? Now what happens at 130? The AND gate will be now outputting 1 because the values A and B were changed from 0 to 1 at 100. So 100 plus its propagation delay 30 nanoseconds G1. At 130 it will be outputting 1. The W1 value becomes 1. So now again one input becomes 1. So the OR gate will be outputting 1. Okay, so from t equal to 150 nanoseconds, the timing diagram of D suggests that its value have become 1. So this was the whole timing diagram. Maybe a little confusing for you guys because it's first time, but it's pretty simple. Just go through it and you will understand. Now, as I said that there are some ways of modeling your circuit. There are 3 of them: gate level modeling, data flow modeling, and behavioral modeling. The example which we just saw was of gate level modeling, but we will be discussing all these 3 modeling in detail, and Kunal will be discussing that. But first of all, if anybody has any doubts, am I going fast or slow, have you understood or not, please mention. Yeah, I see some of your doubts. Okay. Yeah, Kunal has rectified them. So this was some basic concepts of the modules, test bench, keywords, binary value, all these things. Now we will be discussing the ways of modelings, and Kunal will continue from here. Kunal, you can share your screen from now.
Is it visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah, so guys, let's start. Now we will be discussing about the various modeling styles. So in Verilog, we have basically three different modeling styles, namely gate level, data flow, and behavioral. So the first two, that are the gate level and data flow, are used mainly in the case of combinational circuits, whereas the third one, that is behavioral, will be used in the case of sequential circuits. So let's move on. Gate level modeling. So basically in gate level modeling, we describe a circuit by specifying the various logic gates present in it along with the various interconnections between the logic gates. The example that was just discussed by Anant was an example of gate level modeling. So Verilog HDL includes 12 such basic gates which are predefined primitives. So in order to use them, you have to just instantiate them in your code. So some of them are AND, NAND, OR, NOR, XOR, etc. Yeah, keep in mind that while instantiating these keywords or these basic gates, all the gates are declared with lowercase keywords. So let's move to a new example. This is a basic 2 to 4 line decoder. So let's discuss about the code. Let's discuss about the circuit first. In the circuit, we will be having three NOT gates and three NAND gates. The three NOT gates are used to get the complement of the three inputs, namely A, B, and enable. And then we use four NAND gates to get the outputs. So moving on to the code. First, we will use the module keyword module followed by the module name. The module name is of our choice. You can use any name that you wish, followed by the port list. Now, in the port list, you should keep in mind that first either you mention all the output ports followed by the input ports. Either you can do first you can mention all the input ports followed by the output ports. So in our case, we have first mentioned the output port, which is D, followed by the three input ports named A, B, and enable. Yeah, so one thing you should notice here is that the output, there are four outputs in our circuit, D0, D1, D2, and D3. All the four outputs have been declared using a single identifier. This is just like an array that we use in general programming language. In Verilog, we name it as a vector. So what is a vector? Vectors are identifiers having multiple bit widths. The general identifier like the A, B, and enable which we use have a single bit width. Since the bit size is only 1, so only two values are possible, either 0 or 1. But in the case of vectors, we have multiple bit widths. So as you can see in the vector D here, we have 4 bits 0, 1, 2, and 3. So the syntax of declaring a vector is first to mention the data type. It can be output as well as input. In this example, it's output followed by a square bracket in which you write two numbers which uh, represent the index values followed by the identifier name. The important point here is that the first, that is the leftmost number listed inside the square bracket, is always the most significant bit of the vector. So in this case, the leftmost number is 0. So the most significant bit will be the 0th bit. Thus the vector D has 4 bits whose significance order is D0, D1, D2, D3, with D0 being the most significant bit. Okay, just keep in mind that the number which you write first, that is the leftmost number in the square bracket, will be the most significant bit of the vector. For example, in this case, we have written 15 first. So here D15 will be the most significant bit. So let's move forward. Now we will be instantiating the NOT gates. So there are three NOT gates, namely G1, G2, and G3. Followed by the identifier name. There is the port list. In first, we have to mention the output. So basically, A complement we have mentioned as A naught. followed by the input name, which is A. Similarly for G2 and G3. So you can notice here that we need not use the keyword not three times separately for the three gates, that is G1 and G2 and G3. We just use the keyword not once. And we can mention all the various gates, the three gates that we will be using, and we use a comma between two gates to separate the two gates, and the last gate will be having a semicolon. Okay, so now let's move on to the four NAND gates that we will be using in our circuit, namely G4, G5, G6 and G7. So first we will be mentioning the output D0, D1, D2 and D3. Just like you access the array values in any programming language, similarly we access the multiple bits of the vector. So the vector D here have 4 bits, D0, D1, D2 and D3. Just like a simple output identifier, you can use them. So the first bit will be D0, second will be D1, third will be D2 and the fourth will be D3. The indexing start with the value 0. Now then we have the three input ports A0, B0 and enable not in case of gate 4, that is G4. So what you notice here that the predefined gates in Verilog XDL are n input gates. So there is no upper limitation that for a given gate you can use only two input values. As in this case the gate G4 has three input, namely A0, B0 and enable not. Similarly, if it had 4 or 5 input, we can simply mention in the same G4 gate. We need not use different gates to obtain a NAND value, provided that the output is single. So the D0 output depends on the NAND value of 3 inputs which can be used at once. Now similarly we have 4 different gates G4, G5, G6 and G7. All the various gates will be separated by a comma and the last gate should have a semicolon to end. And then we use the keyword end module, which is a kind of a terminator to the keyword module that we have used at the very beginning. So let's summarize what we have discussed in the example so far. The circuit has three inputs, namely A, B and enable. There are four outputs which are specified using a single vector D. Here is no restriction. You can use four different identifiers also, namely D0, D1, D2 and D3. But it is a general form that we prefer using vector instead of four different outputs. So it's up to you. You can use any of the two forms. Then there are three wires that are declared which are used to get the complement of the inputs. So the three wires are A0, B0 and enable not. You need not mention these wires in the port list with the module. The port list just consists of the output and the input ports. Then predefined gates like AND, NAND are n input gates, that is they can have multiple number of inputs. So keyword not and NAND are written only once and need not be repeated. But yeah, commas must be inserted at the end of each gate in series except the last one. The last gate must have a semicolon. To end a module, we will be using the keyword end module. So that was all about a basic modeling type, which was gate level. Now we will be moving to the next next modeling type, which is termed as data flow modeling. So in data flow, it uses a number of operators that act on binary operands to produce a binary result. Data flow modeling basically uses continuous assignment, that is, it assigns a value to a net and then it uses a keyword assign. So basically try to understand the difference between the two modeling types that we use for combinational circuit. In the first one, that is gate level, we describe the circuit in our Verilog code by specifying the various gates present in the circuit and mentioning the interconnection of those gates. Whereas in the case of data flow modeling, we need not have to worry about any of the gate. We just use the binary expression or the Boolean expression that we derive using K-maps to assign the values to our target output. For example, this is a case of a simple AND gate which have output as Z and two inputs X and Y. So in the case of gate level modeling, first of all, we will use a keyword AND followed by an identifier gate name, which is G1 in this case. Then the port list. First is the output Z followed by the two inputs X and Y. That was the case of gate level modeling. In data flow modeling, the keyword use is assign. So in gate level modeling, the keywords were the gate names like AND, NAND, or NOR. But in data flow modeling, we use a single keyword which is assign. That is, it assigns a value to the target output, which is Z. The Z is the target output, followed by an equal to sign, which is also known as the assignment operator, and a Boolean expression. That is the value which must be assigned to the target output Z. Now there is no upper limit in the number of operators, the logical operators that are to be present in the Boolean expression. For example, in this case, we had only one, that is AND operator in the Boolean expression consisting of X and Y. Consider this example where we are having three logical operators, two AND operator and an OR operator. So there is no upper limit on the number of operators that you can use in a single Boolean expression. It's up to you. So please try to understand the difference between the gate level and data flow. In gate level, as the name suggests, we are basically focused on the various gates that will be present in the circuit. In the Verilog code, we have to mention each of those gates and their interconnections. But in the case of data flow, all you need is a Boolean expression. You just have to write a Boolean expression, use a single keyword which is assign, followed by the target output, which is followed by a equal to sign, and finally the Boolean expression. That's all you have to do in the case of data flow modeling. So Verilog SDL provides with 30 such logical operators. The most frequently used ones are listed in the table. Let me call out them: binary addition, subtraction, bitwise operations like AND, OR, XOR, NOT, equality, greater than, less than, concatenation, conditional, and few logical operations like AND, NOR, or NOT. One important point being the equality operator that we use in data flow modeling has two equal to signs. There is no such space between the two signs. Whereas the assignment operator, which we use here, has a single equal to sign. So just keep in mind, when you use a single equal to sign, it's basically known as an assignment operator. It assigns a value on the right hand side to the value which is present on the left hand side. That basically what an assignment operator does. That is denoted using a single equal to sign. Whereas an equality is an operator which has two equal to sign, and it compares the value on the left hand side to the value present in the right hand side. Okay, now see that here there are two types of operators. One set we can term as bitwise and another set we can term as logical. You need to understand the basic difference between the term bitwise and the term logical. As the name suggests, the bitwise will always perform arithmetic operations, and the logical operators will certainly perform logical operations. For example, consider this case when we have an vector operand 1010. When you will use the bitwise not operator on this value, what it will do? It will simply take the bitwise complement. That is, bit by bit, it will take the complement value. For example, it first takes complement of 1, which is 0, then complement of 0, which is 1, then 1, which is 0, then complement of 0, which is 1. So bitwise operators are used to perform arithmetic operations, whereas the logical operators, as the name suggests, they will do logical operations. And in case of digital circuits, there are only two logical values, either true or false. For example, here the value 1010 is greater than 0. So all it means is a true value. And when you take a logical NOT, that is when you perform a logical operation on it, a logical NOT operation on this vector operand, what it will return is the complement of a true value, and complement of true is false. So the output will be 0. Okay, so the bitwise operators perform arithmetic operation, whereas a logical operator will perform the logical operation. Then again, the same point that we have seen in the case of gate level modeling. For multiple assignments, the keyword assign is written only once and it need not be repeated. But yeah, commas must be inserted at the end of each statement in series except the last one. The last one must have a semicolon. So let's have an example. It is the same example that we have seen in the case of gate level modeling. We have a 2 to 4 line decoder. The code on the left hand side is the gate level modeling code which we have earlier seen. Now let's discuss the data flow modeling. So first we always use the keyword module followed by the module name, then the port list. Uh, there are two type of declarations possible for the various ports. Either you declare them inside the port list as we have in data flow modeling, or you can also do them outside the port list. So there is no such restriction. Both of them are allowed in both the modeling types. It's up to you which one you want to use. So now moving ahead, assigning value to the target output. So we are having four target outputs D0, D1, D2 and D3. So in case of gate level modeling, we mentioned the gates. First of all, we use three NOT gates to get the complement values of the three inputs. Then finally, we have used four different NAND gates to get the output values which are assigned to D0, D1, D2 and D3. Now, in the case of data flow modeling, we again have the same four outputs D0, D1, D2 and D3. Here we will be using a single keyword assign, whereas the keywords used here was NOT and NAND. Now, the keyword assign is followed by the target output, after which we will use a single equal to sign known as assignment operator, and followed by the Boolean expression or the logical operation that you want to perform on this D0 or the target output. So let's see from the gate level modeling what basically is D0. So D0 is a NAND is a output of a NAND gate which have three inputs, namely A0, B0 and enable not. So see, in the case of data flow modeling, we assign D0 a Boolean expression which is equivalent to the output of a NAND gate having the three inputs as A0, B0 and enable not. Am I clear? So we just mentioned the output name followed by the assignment operator which is the single equal to sign, then the Boolean expression. Is it clear up to this point? Okay, so I have a small task for all of the participants. The code, that is the data flow modeling codes, have some typos or some errors. For example, consider D1. Basically, D1 is a NAND operation performed on the three inputs, namely A0, B and enable not. That is A0, B and enable not. Here the star, it's just a typo, it's just the error. We have used this example for the from the Morris Mano book. It's mentioned there. So it's just an error. So similarly, there are some other errors present in the data flow modeling code. You can compare the two sides and just check the syntax, is everything okay, or you can point out some mistakes in the code. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
हाँ तो या कोई भी पार्टिसिपेंट यार सामने आओ, switch on your mic, you can just say or just type in the chat box and Anand you can just clarify if they are pointing out the correct error or not. Around 2 to 3 errors are there present in the data flow modeling, one of which was this star mark. It should not be present here, it makes no sense. Similarly, there are some other typos present in the data flow modeling code which I want that you all point out. So let's just go ahead. Anyone? Let me give you one hint that the statement corresponding to the output D2 has two mistakes in it. One is a syntax error and one is an error in the logical expression, the Boolean expression. The Boolean expression consists one error and the syntax corresponding to the statement D2 has one error. If anybody can get, please come forward and say your point. Anyone from the second year, the co-coordinators?
Yeah, we have many responses in the chat.
Yeah, Anand, please read them out. Yeah, so let's continue. You have pointed, many of you have pointed out the right correct mistakes. So basically there must be a bracket corresponding to this bracket at the end of enable. Moreover, the B here it's B naught. So basically we want a complement value of the input value B. So here a complement sign is missing. So it's a second mistake. Then I said earlier, when given sign, we can have multiple values, but all those or the statements must be separated using a comma. So if we must have a comma. The last statement, that is the terminating statement, in this case D3, must have a semicolon. So here that semicolon is also missing. So let's proceed. Moving to our next operator. Condition, true expression, and the false expression. It's basically like if and else statement that we use in a programming language. If the condition is true, the true expression will be executed, or else the false expression will be executed. So this is the case of a. We have taken an example of 2 to 1 line multiplexer. Uh, as we all know, you might have seen it in the DGSM workshop. Let me just recall devise the concept. When the value of s is high, that is it is 1, then in the output z is equal to a. Else if s is equal to 0, that is the value of s is 0, select line is 0, then the output corresponding, then the value corresponding to output z is equal to b. So that we will implement using conditional operator. First we use the keyword module, followed by the module name and the port list. In the port list, first we mention all the output ports. In this case, we have a single output M out, followed by all the input ports, which are A, B, and select. Then we use the assign keyword, which is used in data flow modeling, to assign the Boolean expression value to our target output, which is M out, followed by a single equal to sign, that is the assignment operator. And then we have used here the conditional operator. So if the condition provided here is true, that is the value of select is 1, then output value amount will have the value as a, and if the value of select is 0, then in that case the condition will be false and the false expression will be executed. So in that case the value of amount will be equal to b. Is that clear? Here the condition is select. If it is true, that means its value is 1. The true expression, which is a, will be executed. So amount will be assigned a value equal to a. And if the condition, that is select value is equal to 0, it is false, logically false, then the false expression will be executed, which means that amount will have the value equal to b. And then we will use the final keyword, which is n module, to complete the Verilog code. So the two types of modeling that we have discussed so far are mainly used in the case of combinational circuit. Okay, now moving on to the third type, which is behavioral modeling. We will basically be using it for the sequential circuit, which will be covered properly in the next upcoming workshop. But let's have a quick overview. So in behavioral modeling, we represent a digital circuit at a functional and logarithmic level. It uses the keyword always. So the keyword used here is always. In Dataflow, we have used the keyword assign. earlier than that, in the case of gate level modeling, the keywords used were the various gate names. So in this case, the keyword used is always. So it uses the keyword always followed by an optional event control expression and a list of assignment statements. So the target output of a procedural assignment statement must be of reg data type. Reg, that is register. You have seen it in the case of a test bench or a simulation module, which was discussed earlier by Anand. So the target output, which we declare in case of behavioral modeling, must have a data type as reg, that is register. So what's the uniqueness that reg data type provides? The register data type retains its value until a new value is assigned. So this fact is the most important fact in the case of sequential circuits. The output value must be retained, as the previous output value can affect the current output of the circuit. So we want that the previous output values are retained. So in that case, we must use a register data type. As in the case of other data types, the values are not retained. But when we use a register, the values are retained unless a new value is assigned. So this type of modeling is basically used for sequential systems. As an example, 2 to 1 line multiplexer that we have just seen in the previous slides in the case of data flow modeling using the conditional operator. So in the case of behavioral modeling, first of all, we use the keyword module, then we use the module name followed by the port list. We declare various output ports and the input ports. Now the most important point that which is unique in the case of behavioral modeling is that the output port are also defined as the reg data type. So the output ports which have been defined using the output keyword or the output data type are also redefined. The same identifier, that is the same m out, is once again redeclared as reg data type, so that the value is retained in it. So that's mainly used in the case of sequential circuit. So moving ahead, the variable m out is the target output and it must be declared as reg data in addition to the output declaration. The procedural assignment statements inside the always block are executed every time there is a change in any of the variables listed after @ symbol. So we are talking basically about this time. We use the keyword always, and the statements or the values which are written inside the bracket that is the values which are followed by the @ sign. Now whenever we have a change in any of these values, the statement after the always keyword, that is these two statements, the if and the else statement, will be executed. So unless and until there is change in A or B or select, these two if and else statement will not be executed. And if any one of these value changes, that is any of the values of A or B or select changes, the two statements, in this case the if and else, will be executed. So whenever we have a change in A or B or select, the following two statements are executed, in which if the value of select is 1, then corresponding to the output m out, the value A is assigned, else if the select value is equal to 0, then correspondingly we assign the value B to the output. Of course, here should be an assignment operator. There is a single equal to sign. It's a typo. No 5 equal to sign. Okay. So let's move forward. Case statement. So a case statement is a multi-way conditional statement, just like an if-else, but multiple if-else. So combined together to form a case statement. We also use this in the case of programming languages. So the statement associated with the first case item that matches is executed. And in absence of any match, we can use a default keyword whose statement gets executed if no match is found. So we will be seeing an example of the case statement, but first let's discuss how do we write binary values in Verilog, because we will be using this fact in the example. So it was also earlier discussed by Anand that Binary numbers in Verilog are specified and interpreted with the letter B. B stands for binary, preceded by a prime. The size of the number is written first and then its value. Thus, 2 prime B01 specifies a 2-bit binary number whose value is 01. So the numerical value before prime is actually the size or the number of bits that the given binary value have. After the prime, we have a B, which denotes that the values are written in binary format, followed by the bits, the binary values. So let's see an example of a 4:1 multiplexer. First of all, we use the keyword module to declare our module, followed by the module name and the port list. Note here that we have used the keyword reg along with output as mentioned earlier, that each and every output port used in the case of behavioral modeling are also to be declared as reg. Reg stands for register. That is, the value of amount will be retained, will be hold unless and until a new change is made to its value. So we basically do not need it in the case of combinational circuit. We need not hold the value of the output for the next time, means the current value of the output does not depend on the previous output value. But in the case of sequential circuit, the current output value is a function of the previous output value. So in that case, we need to use register. So that's why I say that the behavioral modeling is used in the case of sequential circuit. But just to explain, we are doing it in the for a combinational circuit also. So after the output, we declare the various input ports. Yeah, in this case, we have used a vector. So select is a vector, which is a 2-bit vector, that is S0 and S1. There are 2 bits associated with this vector. A vector has no size limit. In the earlier examples, we have declared a vector D, which has a size of 4, D0, D1, D2, and D3. And in this case, we have declared an input vector which has a size of 2. So it's up to you what is the size of the vector you need according to your circuit. So then the keyword used here is always. Once again, recall let me make you recall that in the case of gate level modeling, the keyword used are the various gate names. In the case of data flow modeling, we use a keyword assign, and in the case of behavioral modeling, the keyword used by us is always. So first we use the keyword always, then we use a @sign, and the values or the identifiers that are mentioned in the port list. If a change in any of these identifiers values takes place, then the procedural assignments, the statements following the always keyword will be executed. Thus these 4 to 5 statements will be executed if and only if there is a change in any of these 4 values, that is n0, n1, n2, n3, and select. If a change in these 5 values, any of these 5 occurs, then the following statements will be executed. So case, so here basically we are using a case statement which is declared using a case keyword followed by the identifier whose value we want to compare. So in this case, we have the identifier select whose value we want to compare. So the select is a vector which has 2 bits S0 and S1. So if S0 S1 is equal to 0 0, this statement will be executed. If S0 S1 is equal to 0 1, then this statement will be executed. If S0 S1 is equal to 1 0, then this statement will be executed. If S0 S1 is equal to 1 1, then the fourth statement will be executed. So in this case, we know that these are the only 4 values which can be true in case of S0 and S1. So we need not use the default keyword. The purpose of using a default keyword is that if there is a mismatch, that is the value of S0 S1 does not take any of these 4 values, then we use the keyword default, that if no match is found, this statement should be executed. But here we know that S0 S1 can only take these 4 possible values, that is 0 0, 0 1, 1 0, or 1 1. So here we do not have any need of using a default keyword. So let's move forward. So if S0 S1 has the value 0 0, then the output that is M out, will be assigned N0. If the value of select is the vector, that is S0, S1 has the value equal to 0, 1, then output will be in 1, and similarly we have for 1, 0 and 1, 1. Then the case statement block is terminated using an AND case keyword. So we must use the keyword AND case to terminate this case statement, followed by the final terminating keyword, that is the AND module. Okay, so let's move. Now we will be having a practical implementation on the Vivado software. So let's summarize. We have said that basically there are two modules that we use in a Verilog code. First is a design module, and then we have a simulation module, which is also known as a test bench. So the content which I have discussed just now is regarding the design module. That is, in the design module, we have three types of modeling: gate level, data flow, and behavioral. None of these were discussed for the simulation module. Okay, so the main part is the design module. First of all, you need to design your circuit on the Verilog platform, and then you have to prepare a simulation module in order to provide stimulus to the design that you have, to the module that you have just designed. So now we will be having a practical implementation for the given problem statement, which states that you come from an orthodox family, and your parents believe that your age must be strictly greater than your partner's age. So given your and your partner's age as a 5-bit number, find if you can means you can propose or not. So basically you are given two numbers and both of them are 5-bit number, and you have to compare if the number corresponding to your age is greater than your partner's age, then you can have a go ahead, else not. So Anand will be implementing it on the Vivado software platform. So Anand, it's up to you now.
Yeah, thanks, Umar. So enough with the theory. Now write the code of the above problem in the Vivado software. Yeah. So my screen is visible, I guess. So this was the problem. You come from the orthodox family and your parents want that your age should be greater than your parents' age. So given both of your age as a 5-bit number, find if you can propose or not. So if you have studied about magnitude comparator, you can come to know that it's basically a question about magnitude comparator. So just let's quickly code it on Vivado software. How to write it on software, we will just learn. Before writing the code, let me just explain you what's the procedure for downloading Vivado. We will be using Vivado software, and I will share this PDF. It has all the instructions regarding the download of this software. You have to just follow this. I will be sharing this after the workshop. Just download Vivado. Just one thing, this second step, the link here is actually will not be working because of the address would have been changed. So I will just show from where you have to download. Just search Vivado download or Xilinx Vivado. Xilinx is the name of the company. For it, this is their official website, and just click download Vivado. And the version which we will be using is 2018.3. It is in the Vivado archive because it's not free actually. The Vivado Webpack thing is free of cost, and all the YouTube videos which we will see, they will be helping you to download the Webpack edition. But the edition which we want is the design edition, which is not free, that wants license, and we have the license for this version 2018.3. So you have to install this. This is the link. This is the link for the installer. It is of 62.66 MB. This link. This you have to click and it will begin the download, and then you have to just follow the rest all things from this document. At last you can see you have to use this license. This is the license file. This will be also be shared with you after the workshop. So this is how you are going to download the Vivado software. And one small thing, actually the Vivado software is quite big, very big. It's of 13 GB in size. So for someone, if you do not have any broadband connection or Wi-Fi, and if you are not able to download it, you can also download the Model Sim software. It is by Mental Graphics. It's just 363 MB download. You can also download from their official website, mentalgraphics.com, download student edition, and just supply the details and submit, and then you can download. Pretty simple. You can follow any YouTube video. I did the same, any video for download instruction. So you can also download Model Sim if you want. And if not, just go for Vivado, please, because we have some experience in using Vivado as well as it's quite better than Model Sim regarding GUI and all that stuff. So try to download Vivado, else not. If not, you can download Model Sim. So let's just write the code for the problem we have just seen on the Vivado software. I will be showing you how to create a project, how to set the settings and all of that stuff. So this is the Vivado software. I have opened it. Click on open project. Okay, not open project. Create project. Just click next. Just specify the location where you wanted to save. Next. RTL project next. And then just create file. This file will be the file for your design module, the main module which we are using. I will just give it a name, test. Okay. Next, no additional files. Yeah, this is the main page. You have to set some default settings for your software to work. You have to set the family to Arctic 7, package CSG324, and speed -1. And the last one of this, and next. This is the default setting. Please check this. Finish, and your project will get started. It will take some time. Yeah, so this is the main window of your Vivado software. It's actually quite big in size because you can all, this is the tab where you will be given the name of your module. Let it be just test only. Yeah, okay. What I was saying, that since the software will be used to simulate very big circuits, and so that's why its size is actually big, 13 GB download. It actually takes 50 GB size on your disk. So just click on this design source test. This is the file, your module for the design module, if you will. And here we will be writing our code. So let's just quickly write the code for this problem. So what is the actual problem? We have two numbers, two 5-bit numbers, and we have to actually compare if the first number is greater than the second number or not. So what we have learned, we specify the outputs followed by the inputs to the circuit. The outputs will be A, B, C, and input will be capital A, capital B. It is case sensitive, so no worries about small and capital. Worries about small and capital actually. What are these outputs A, B, and C? A will be telling us that is the first number less than second. The B output will be telling us is the both numbers same, and the third number, the third variable C will be telling us is the first number lesser than the second number. And what are these numbers, first and second number? They are the inputs, capital A, capital B. So let's decide which are inputs and which are output. The output are A, B, and C. Small a, small b, small c. Okay. The inputs is actually a 5-bit number. So we will define a vector 0, 4. It's a 5-bit number. And A and B are the inputs. Okay. There are going to be no wires in this. So just only output and input. Now is the main, what is it? So it will show. So let's
Anand,
yeah.
square bracket. vector 0 के corresponding.
Yeah. So our main task is to compare is first number is greater than or not. So how we will be doing it? We will be using data flow modeling. We'll be saying assign A. The variable which will be telling us is the first number greater than or from second or not. So we'll be writing A greater than B underscore. So what this A greater than B will check? It will check is number A greater than B. If yes, it will set assign A as 1, else 0. Similarly, we can assign B equal to A equal to B. Note that the use of single equal to and double equals. That's why we are using double equals to for comparing, because the single equals is assigned for the assign statement. Similarly, assign variable C equal to A greater than B. Okay, and then terminate the module by end module. That's it. If you have seen the actual circuit of magnitude comparator, you have seen that it's quite big. So if we have to use gate level modeling, the code would have been very long. But it's the beauty of data flow modeling. We know what our circuit is going to do, its function. So we just write the function of the circuit in just these 3 lines and set the 3 outputs. That's it. This is a module. Now we have to just write the code for the simulation module. So just create the plus.
Anand,
yeah.
A और C में A greater होगा एक less than होगा.
Yes. A less than B. This is for C. So we will be creating the simulation module. Add or create simulation sources next. Just create file, give it name test bench. Test bench. Okay. Finish. So our new file will be creating the test bench. Again, we are giving the module name same test bench. It's updating, and here is our test bench file. Just open here this, and here we will be writing the code for the test bench. So let's quickly write that module test bench. What are the inputs? They will be defined as registers. So 0 for the size. The inputs were A and B, and the outputs which will be declared as were small a, B, and C. Just instantiate your module. Its name was test. Give it a name A, and the same order A, B, C, capital A, capital B. Okay, so we have instantiated the design module. Same order A, B, C, A, B. Output first, input then following it. So now let's assign the value to the inputs. We will be doing this by in the initial, begin and end. Okay. So what value are we going to give A? Just let your age, the age of A equal to 24. So it's a 5-bit number, binary. 24 means 16, 8, 0, 0, 0. This is A, and we want B to be less than A. So let it be 20. 20 means 16. It's 20. Okay. Now after 100 seconds, let's change the values of our input. So after 100 seconds, let A equal to something equal to B. Let A equal to 24 only, and 5B. Okay. And B equal to now equal to A means we want it to be equal to A, that is 24. Okay, then after 100 seconds, let's change the value again. Now we want that C should be means B should be greater than A. So let A equal to some smaller number, maybe only 1, and B equal to bigger number, let's just say 10 or 2 will work. Let's say 16 only. Okay, so we have supplied the inputs. The A will be 24, B will be 20 for initial 100 seconds. Then it will change to both will become equal to 24 after 100 nanosecond, and then after 100 nanosecond, A will become B and B will become 16. And this code for the test bench is completed, and I hope there is no error. If there is no error, we will just click run simulation, run behavioral simulation, save the file. And if our code is actually correct, we will just see a timing diagram. Is there some message? Okay. Some error. Module test ABC. Okay. Just
Hello.
yeah.
Design module खोल. Test.p. End module के बाद semicolon नहीं होगा. Last statement end module.
Okay.
Still.
Yeah. So now. Just check it carefully. Module test A, B, C. Outputs are A, B, and C. Inputs are A and B, which are vectors. As A is assigned, B is assigned, C is assigned, and end module. Okay, it's all correct. Test bench register. Test name. The name is test, no? Yes. Begin.
भैया
Yes.
भैया शायद आपने टाइम स्केल नहीं डाला है.
No, it's already there at the above.
अच्छा ठीक है.
Even if we have not specified, it's default.
ओके भैया.
भैया टेस्ट बेंच के बाद कर्ली ब्रैकेट्स भी आएंगे.
Not necessary, but let's try. I don't know why it's not showing. I've checked it just before. Let's just copy this for now. So this was the code which I tested. This line initial hash 100 finish does the task that after 100 nanosecond, it will just stop the simulation and nothing else. The rest thing is same, registers, wires, same test. Okay, whatever. And this was our code for test. Same thing, I guess. Let's copy. So here is the timing diagram. This. So you can check for starting 100 nanoseconds. I have kept the values of A and B both equal to 24. Yeah, this is the time nanosecond. From 0 to 100 nanosecond, the A value was 24, which is specified by this sort of hexagon 11000, because the value of A is 24 for the whole time interval. So it is 24, and B is 10110, which is 22. So you can see A is greater than B in this case. So the outputs are according to this: A is 0, B is 0, and C is 1. Then from the time interval 100 to 200, now both A and B are equal to 24. So B input should be equal to 1 and the rest 2 should be 0. You can check the values here. You can also check from the timing diagram that the A value is 0, the C value is 0, but the B value has become 1. Now after more 100 nanoseconds, that is 200 nanoseconds, now the A value now the B value is more than A. So B is greater than A. So the B variable and C variable both should be equal to 0, and only A should be equal to 1. Okay. And after 1000 nanoseconds, the simulation is stopped, as you can see. So this is the timing diagram, and this was the code. And this is how you create a project. You set the settings and write the code in 2 different separate modules. I don't know what was the error before. The code was exactly same. Anyways, so this was the code. This was all about today's workshop, and in the next workshop we will be covering the sequential circuit part and the code for that. So any doubts about software, theory, anything? Okay, then thank you very much. These are
कुछ भी
our
हो तो पूछ लेना doubts.
contact numbers. Yes.
You have the contact, copy the contact numbers. Otherwise, if you have any doubts now, you can ask them.
Yeah.
Our feedback form is already in Teams. You can give your feedback regarding today's workshop. Otherwise, it will also be circulated on the iChip group. कुछ भी doubts हो regarding मतलब सारे these download links and all will be provided on the Teams channel. You don't need to worry about that.
Okay, so let's wrap it up. Thanks for watching.
Okay.